Good evening, I'm Rohit Sharma and welcome to Desi from DC, coming to you every night from heart of Washington. This is where America's power corridors meet India's prime time to break down the biggest political, economic and global stories that shape both nations live from Washington. From Capitol Hill to Rice on a Hill, we connect the dots between what happens here in Washington and how it echoes back home in India. We begin tonight with the big stories of the day. President Trump signs bill ending longest shutdown. States rush to restore full SNAP benefits. Delhi blast confirmed terror attacks, says Marco Rubio. Americans increasingly unhappy with Trump governance. US sanctions Indian firm over Iran weapons. First Lady Melania Trump is turning her attention once again to young people, this time to those who have grown up in the foster care system. Her new initiative, called Fostering the Future, builds on her earlier Be Best campaign. It is meant to create a clearer path for young adults leaving foster care, a moment that can too often feel like stepping off a cliff without a safety net. Today, President Donald Trump signed an executive order titled Fostering the Future for American Children and Families.
The President has prioritized America's foster care children, and shortly he will sign our Fostering the Future Executive Order.
It's designed to expand education and employment opportunities for more than 20,000 youth who age out of foster care each year. For many of them, the transition to independence can be abrupt, sometimes leading to unemployment, housing insecurity, or homelessness. The order seeks to change that by bringing together public and private partners, universities, corporations, and federal agencies, allowing them to open doors that have too often stayed closed. Several U.S. universities, including Vanderbilt, the University of Miami, Villanova, have already been offering scholarship as part of the effort. And the U.S. Office of Personnel Management is creating a dedicated hiring portal within its Pathways program, giving former foster youth direct access to federal jobs. There's also a plan to bridge the digital divide. The Administration for Children and Families will pilot a program donating decommissioned federal laptops to young people in foster care. Officials say it's about more than programs or policies. It's about stability, dignity, and giving young Americans a fair start at adulthood. The hope, they say, is that fostering the future will turn what has long been a cycle of struggle into one of opportunity and self-reliance. More details on the executive order and the broader initiative are available on the White House website and Melania Trump's official page. Last night, after a record-setting 43-day shutdown, the U.S. federal government has now reopened. President Donald Trump signed the spending bill late Wednesday night, bringing end to the longest government funding lapse in American history. In the Oval Office, Trump held a pen and declared, "With my signature, the federal government will now resume normal operations." And he added that this is no way to run a country. I hope we can all agree government shutdown should never happen again. The bill passed House by a 222 to 209 margin after the Senate had approved it earlier. It funds most federal agencies through January 30th, 2026 and fully funds some departments to September of 2026. So what does this reopening of government translate to? Well, now federal workers can go back to their jobs. The paychecks will now resume, and core government services that were frozen during the shutdown will begin ramping up again. National parks and air traffic control and food aid programs that were disrupted are now set to resume with full operations. But while the shutdown is over, the underlying fight remains. The deal did not include an extension of the expiring tax credits tied to the Affordable Care Act, a key demand of Senate Democrats. That means there's pressure mounting for next round battle before the year's end. For everyday Americans, the reopening brings a sigh of relief. Furloughed workers who missed paychecks can finally expect back pay. Families depending on food assistance and travelers delayed by air traffic disruption will definitely see some relief. In his remarks, the president framed the moment as victory for governance rather than stalemate. He credited those who supported the bill and cast the shutdown as a needless crisis that costs people livelihoods and services. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called the deadly car explosion near Delhi Red Fort a terrorist attack, praising the professional and measured handling by the Indian authorities. The blast, which killed at least 13 people, has drawn international attention and renewed focus on regional security. Speaking to reporters in Hamilton, Canada, Rubio emphasized that the attack involved a vehicle loaded with high explosive and was clearly a terrorist attack. He lauded India's investigative teams for their methodical approach, noting that officials are gathering evidence carefully before releasing details publicly. Rubio also highlighted that India's response reflects its professionalism even amid rising tensions and heightened security concerns in the region.
Counterpart here as well. India has declared that the explosion in Delhi on Monday was a terrorist incident. How concerned are you about rising tensions between India and Pakistan, given the antecedent of the tension and the fighting?
Yeah, I mean we're aware. We're aware of that, the potential that holds. But I think the Indians need to be commended. They've been very measured and cautious and very professional in how they're carrying out this investigation. That investigation continues. It clearly was a terrorist attack, and it was a car loaded with highly explosive materials that detonated and killed a lot of people. But I think they're doing a very good job.
The attack comes on the heels of India's Operation Sindoor against terror infrastructure in Pakistan, following the April Pahalgam attack earlier this year. While recent military confrontation between India and Pakistan have subsided, the Red Fort incident underscores ongoing risks in the region and importance of intelligence-led counter-terrorism efforts. Rubio reiterated U.S. confidence in India's investigation, noting that Washington is closely monitoring developments but commanded Delhi's restraint and caution. Analysts say the blast not only tests India's domestic security apparatus, but also has broader implications for regional stability and Indo-US strategic cooperation. As the probe continues, investigators are expected to release more information once the evidence is fully compiled, while both local and international observers watch closely to assess potential threats and next steps in India's measure to counter terrorism. The Gold Institute for International Strategy held a discussion on illegal immigration, asylum abuse, and transnational drug ring. They shared the growing threat of what they attributed as Pakistani-backed Khalistani cult to North America's security and public safety. The discussion was moderated by Adel Nazrain, and panelists included Mark Black, a senior fellow at Gold Institute, Utsav Chakrabarti, the executive director of Hindu Action, Daniel Boardman, a Canadian journalist, and Ruchi Wali, Canadian Hindu and Sikh advocate. Here are some of the experts from the discussion.
Welcome to the Troika Threat, how illegal immigration, asylum abuse, and transnational drug running endanger our national security. I'm Adel Nazarian, a senior fellow at the Gold Institute for International Strategy, and it's my privilege to moderate today's discussion. This event couldn't be more timely. Across the Western Hemisphere, we're witnessing a convergence of crises, the erosion of border integrity, security, the exploitation of asylum seekers and systems, and the rise of transnational criminal and ideological networks that threaten not only our national security, but our social cohesion.
Illegal immigration, asylum abuse, and the transnational criminal networks, they pose a great threat to North America's stability, security, economy, and even the social cohesion. But the issue that we are going to talk about is not immigration. The issue is the exploitation of the immigration process due to the loopholes that we have in our system. And in my opinion, the two most exploited routes, at least in Canada, they are the asylum claims as well as the student visa.
On the basis of illegal immigration and asylum are also foreign influence operations. Many of them are directly connected to China. Many of them are connected to Islamist groups, pan-Islamist groups, or they are, in the case of Khalistan, the proxies of Pakistani intelligence. And we are increasingly seeing that because many of these foreign influencers want these groups to generate money within America or Canada using local resources, they are encouraging them to commit crimes and transport, illegal drugs, weapons, and so on and so forth. I hope we will be discussing more of that later.
Canada, where we are both hail from, is often perceived as a softer target due to its immigration policies. I want to talk about how Canada's asylum framework interfaces with the US system and whether or not you see evidence of coordination among traffickers, illogical operatives, or hostile state actors taking advantage of this north-south asymmetry. And that also honestly ties into, it's a two-pronged question, an issue that, has also seen renewed attention in the media, the Khalistan issue. It's gained renewed visibility in Canada and beyond.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, how does Canada? I mean, the answer to this is Canada is a softer target, and it's a confluence of factors. So, yes, it's softer immigration laws, but Canada, if you're of Indian origin or Jewish, Canada is like Israel and India, where it's a judocracy. Okay, judges are like kings or queens. And especially in Canada, a judge can just make up anything and they're the queen of the universe or the king of the universe. And the laws are so convoluted. And actually in Canada, there's like rulings that you can prioritize people's race if the race is like oppressed. So you can uplift the oppressed. The answer is wokeness, okay? Every place there is, it's wokeness. It's wokeness in the immigration offices. It's wokeness in the judicial system. It's wokeness in the police force. It's wokeness mostly in the police council. So at every single level, it's a softer target.
Well, the speakers cautioned on how this growing triad of challenges undermines U.S. national security, public safety, and social cohesion. They shed light on how exploited asylum systems have allowed criminal networks, illogical extremists, and foreign proxies to infiltrate American borders under the guise of humanitarian protection. To watch the full discussion, you can go to India Today's Global's YouTube channel. And while you're at that, do like and subscribe. Shocking new details emerge in the Matt Gaetz and Joel Greenberg case, revealing how a vulnerable 17-year-old girl was exploited by powerful figures. The revelations have ignited a national conversation about coercion, abuse, and accountability among the politically connected. The girl, who had a homeless parent and worked at McDonald's to make ends meet, turned to an online sugar dating website hoping to earn extra money. She met Joel Greenberg through the site, who later paid her for sexual encounters and gave her drugs according to court documents. Over several months, Greenberg used both personal and official funds to exploit her before she turned 18. In July 2017, Greenberg hosted a party at the home of former Florida lawmaker Chris Dorwart, attended by Matt Gaetz. Court records show the teenager was offered alcohol and drugs. She testified that she had sexual encounters with both Gaetz and Greenberg at the party, receiving money each time. The girl eventually moved to Texas, continued working in food services, and saved enough money to afford braces. Greenberg pleaded guilty to sex trafficking a minor and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. No charges were filed against Gaetz. Lawyers later sought settlements and shared documents with the House Ethics Committee, which investigated the case. Tonight, millions of Americans are finally receiving full food assistance after the longest government shutdown in the U.S. history. States are rushing to restore SNAP benefits that were delayed for weeks, helping families put groceries back on the table. During the shutdown, a patchwork of partial or missing benefits left many struggling to feed themselves. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has now ordered states to deliver full November SNAP benefits immediately, reaching about 42 million people, roughly 1 in 8 Americans. On average, households receive $190 per person, though it often does not cover an entire month's groceries. Some states like Arkansas say funds will be loaded onto electronic benefit cards by Friday. Officials are working around the clock to make up for the lost time, with food pantries and local groups stepping in to help families during the gap. USDA guidance also temporarily waives work requirements for SNAP recipients, ensuring no one loses benefits while states catch up. Officials say the swift restoration of aid is critical as families prepare for the holiday season and rising grocery costs. The US government has slapped sanctions on Chandigarh-based Farmland Private Limited and its UAE director Marco Kling over alleged involvement in Iran's missile and drone programs. The move freezes the company's US assets and bars any American business dealings. The sanctions are part of President Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign, targeting Iran's nuclear and weapons program. Farmland and Kling are accused of supplying chemicals and materials that could be used in Iran's ballistic missile and drone development, working with other sanctioned entities in China, Iran, and Turkey. US Treasury officials said Kling coordinated purchase from India and China before funneling materials to Iran's Parchin chemical industries, a key part of Iran's defense industries. The sanctions fall under Executive Order 13382, which freezes the assets of individuals or companies linked to weapons of mass destruction and prohibits any transactions with them. Officials warn that Iran continues to exploit global financial systems to advance its weapons program and support proxy groups. Analysts say these sanctions send a strong message to companies worldwide about the risks of engaging in prohibited transactions while aiming to limit Tehran's missile and drone capabilities. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani was spotted in a deep conversation with US Senator Elizabeth Warren just outside his campaign headquarters. The unexpected meeting was captured by Kushal Bantal, co-founder and CEO of a fintech company, whose office is right across the street. Bantal shared the moment on X, writing that after his company's stand-up meeting, the meeting noticed Mamdani and Warren in a deep debate. The post quickly drew attention, with many wondering what the two prominent Democrats were discussing about the city's future. Mamdani, the first Muslim and first South Asian mayor-elect of New York City, won 4 out of 5 boroughs in a historic election. Known as a democratic socialist and digital-savvy campaigner, he energized youth voters and brought record turnout to the mayoral race. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Desi from DC. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today Global. And do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you go. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay curious.